Hello and welcome to another tutorial video. In today's video, we will be going over the very basics of installing and using your Stream Deck if you have one. So first things first, what you're going to want to be doing is to go over to the Elgato website and download the application. If we come over here and we go over to the Elgato website, you're going to want to go under the Elgato/English and then downloads. What you're going to do afterwards is select your product. So in my case, we have the regular Stream Deck. So Stream Deck, and then for Windows, because I'm using Windows, if you have Mac, you then choose Mac. You go and hit the little download button. So once that download is complete, you go over to your downloads folder. Open the file, and then once you're there, you would then run the application. I'm not going to run it personally just because I've already installed it. So let's get over and show you the proper way to use it. So now that we're here, this is what's going to pop up the first time you ever boot up your Stream Deck. You'll notice on the right hand side, there's a bunch of different things you can use. We're going to go over a few of them just to show you guys how they work, and then you can customize your Stream Deck as much as you like. So the welcome just shows you the welcome to Stream Deck. So if you were to press this button right now on your Stream Deck, a window would open, and it would open over to this page, which is basically something similar to what we're doing now. It's just going to go over the details on how to use your Stream Deck. So feel free to browse this website and use it to your heart's content. But for now, we don't personally need it. So what we're going to do, we're going to right click on the welcome and click on delete. And then if you don't want it to ask you ever again, just don't ask me again. I personally prefer to keep it just because I wouldn't want to accidentally delete something I would actually need. Before we go into any of the commands, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go check into the plugins. There's a lot of very useful plugins you can use. So if you click on here, you'll see all the different advertisements, discover, free music, free sound effects you can use, icons, and then what I'm talking about personally is plugins. So you can use different plugins for different purposes. So you have your Spotify, you have Mute, OBS tools, which is honestly very useful. There's also Twitch tools, which basically integrates with your Twitch profile, and then you can actually do things such as shout out and those kinds of things. So feel free to go through all these plugins and use the ones that are applicable to you, because not everyone would have, for example, Spotify, not everyone would have VoiceMod. So go through, test which ones you would like. Afterwards, now that that's done, you can come over here, and this is where the fun part begins. And honestly, it's relatively easy to do. So if we go over to OBS Studio, you can select Scene. This is one of the most useful skills you can use in this other than multi-actions. So if we go over to Scene and you just click and drag, it's going to bring you over to your scene switching button, essentially. So then you can give it a title, and then afterwards you can choose from which profile you would like to use. So in my case, streaming. And then I would tell it which scene to use. So if I want to go over to my chatting scene, I would then just click on chatting. So now if I were to click on this button on my Stream Deck, it would switch over to that profile, which you can do the same for any of your scenes you might have. For me, gaming, so this one would be relatively similar to the one we have here already, and it would give you all my alerts and everything in that aspect. So that's for the scene switcher. Feel free to add with however many scenes you may have. Next thing you might want to play with is the multi-action. Multi-actions are very powerful tools. So again, you just click and drag, and then it's going to bring you to the multi-action selection screen. Personally, I find it's very useful for starting a stream, because then you can just go open and then tell it which application to open within your computer. So if you want it to open OBS, open a specific game, you just go over. So let's say we wanted to start Diablo Resurrected. We would click on Diablo, we would click on this, open. So if I were to press this button right now, it would open Diablo 2. But that's not the only thing that's nice about multi-action, because it is a multi-action button. So basically, you can tell it, go ahead, open, tell it to open. For example, if we go over to my desktop, and then we can go over into Stream, I can tell it to open OBS. So I click open, now it's going to open OBS alongside Diablo 2. If you want to switch to your starting soon scene as you're starting up Stream, make sure that you're switching to that scene. You could also go to OBS Studio, scene, drag it in, tell it to go to streaming, and then starting. So basically you don't even have to worry about switching or making sure to switch to your starting soon scene, because it automatically does it for you. So that's the nice thing about multi-actions, and you can use any of the actions that you can find within this bar. And then the other thing that you can do is you can modify this image. So if you click on the little plus, it's going to give you the icon library, which is what Elgato gives you access to. You can also put custom images on it. So all you need to do is find an image on your computer. So we'll just go over to my images. And let's say we go to my Twitch things. We want emotes. So we go grab an emote. We want an animated emote, for example. We want cozy to represent this multi-action button. We would then drag it onto here, and there you go. So this is an animated emote on mine, so it might look a little weird. But on mine right now, because it is an animated emote, it appears on my Stream Deck animated. So basically the button on my side right now is animating. I was talking earlier about the Twitch tools. This is very, very useful. So you can do shoutouts, which is a command we as streamers use very often. So basically, it's going to tell you, you can name it as usual, and in the message, it's going to say shoutout and then the username. On here, you can put, optionally, you can put which channel you want it to get. If you want active or all viewers, and then you just go to, so for me, I'll add Nerapi here, Nerapi. First time you launch it, it's going to ask you to authorize Stream Deck for getting your Twitch information. So it's it's going to be slightly different for you guys. You can also tell your Stream Deck to send a message to your chat. So if you have a specific message that you use often, so let's say you want hug. So this one does require you to absolutely have to put your channel, and then say you want to use your command hug. So in this case, it's going to always use the hug command. There's also different plugins like Dixper here. So if you use Dixper, you have a way to enable or disable your skills. Audio devices is another one. So you can mute and unmute your mic without using any specific shortcuts that you have to implement into OBS, which is very useful. If you're running Mixitup, you can run a command from Mixitup. There's a ban and timeout button. So you can time out for how many seconds there is here. Action for ban, timeout, or remove timeout. So whenever you use the shoutout and ban commands, what's going to happen is if you press on the button, it's going to show you everyone that's either active or all users, depending on which level you decided to use. So here, for what I meant, choose from active or all viewers, and it's going to bring you all their profile images as well as their usernames. So you can quickly just press a button and they're gone, or shout it out, or whatever the case may be. And honestly, there's just a very big variety of different commands you can use. You can send out a tweet, you can change names. So if you're using a tweet very often, you can just tell it to send that tweet. System, so if you want to open a website, different hotkeys, this is a button you can also use very often. So you assign a hotkey. So in this case, we'll say Control F11. So basically what you would do now is if you go into your OBS and say you want to mute your microphone or unmute voice mod if you're using voice mod, you can go over to OBS and say, hey, unmute voice mod voice input that you're using. So that way it's going to activate the voice mod and be able to use it. Speaking of voice mod, you can tell it to put it on, off. So again, that the hotkey, not completely necessary if you grab all the different plugins, right? You can tell it to change it on, off. You can tell it to activate voice mod. You can tell it to assign a random voice. So all voices, favorite voices, voice lab voices, favorite plus voice lab voices. So basically any voice you may want, you want it to be random instead of specific, you just do it that way. So that's just a test profile I created here. If we click over to my profile that I currently use, you'll see that I have all my different source changes, different commands that I've added, emote only, ban, timeout, mute, unmute, different scenes for a different profile I have, my voices. So instead of being random, I assigned specific buttons to specific buttons. So this is the voice mod voice changer. So it's just this one. Click and drag, tell it which voice you want to use. And basically it's going to switch to that voice if you use this button, without having to go over all the way to voice mod and change the voice. You can, as you can see here, since I showed you all the voices, you can create folders as well. So basically right click, create folder, and then you go into the folder and you can assign any commands to these buttons as well. So you're not restricted to how many buttons you have on your Stream Deck. There's multiple ways to circumvent it. So you can create folders and then use those folders to put in different commands. Or you can also go over, and as you can see, I have a profile switcher. So this you can find in Stream Deck, switch profile. So under Stream Deck, switch profile, put it on, and then you tell it which profile to use or the next profile in line. So right now we're in streaming. If I go to next profile and we were to click on this button right now, it's going to switch over to the next profile that I have saved up, which is my offline profile, which I can launch specific games, mute Discord, and then Clip Studio, Spotify. You can use it in very different ways. If you like to create clips on the fly, you can just use the clip to chat. If you're using the Twitch Mods plugin, you tell it which channel to use it from, and what's that's going to do is it's going to clip the last 30 seconds and then send it over to your chat. So if you ever feel like doing a quick clip, you have a quick button to just press and it automatically clips everything for you. Run ad if you want to run ads. So it's just really easy. Just drag, drop, add length, how long you want the ad to be. And you can do this for any command, any button. You can mix. You can do a lot of powerful things with this one. There's also the soundboard if you want to play a specific audio instead of having to use SoundPad on Steam, for example. You can just tell it to automatically play that voice for you. And that, honestly, guys, wraps up the very basics of how to acquire Stream Deck application as well as how to use it. It's very simple. It's very, very user-friendly. And I hope you enjoy your new Stream Deck if you're new to it, or if you're not new to it, learned a few tricks up your sleeve. So hopefully we can see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.